So yeah, good afternoon, morning or evening, wherever people are joining us from or watching this recording from. It's great to have some more people joining us today. This is all about CCG's data deal boot camps, a new sort of capacity building offer that is going to come into fruition next year. So Vivian's here to talk about introduce capacity building, and sort of what we're doing with the boot camps, and then Rudolf's going to give you a bit more of a deep dive presentation into exactly what each modality is and sort of maybe how you can take part and the opportunities available to everybody. Then we'll have time for question and answer, and then we'll close off with Vivian at the end. So if you do have any questions throughout, then please use the chat or the Q&A, and I'll monitor that throughout. And then if you have any important questions relating to the presentation, try to keep them to the end. You'll have plenty of time. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I'll hand over to Vivian.
Thanks very much, Kane. Welcome everybody. We're delighted to be here with you today to talk about a capacity building innovation that CCG is launching, which are the data to deal boot camps. I'm sure you're familiar with CCG's existing capacity building program, including the Open Learn collection, the energy modeling platform, and more recently, the energy modeling community. So the idea of data to deal boot camps is to increase the impact of our capacity building efforts, essentially by targeting them at teams of people who are engaged in producing specific deliverables for their governments. And so I'd like to hand over to my colleague Rudolf Yeganyan, who coordinates our capacity building programs at CCG, who's going to give you a little bit more of an idea about what the boot camps are, hopefully to help you to decide if you'd like to apply for training under this modality. Over to you, Rudolf.
Thank you, Vivian. Let me just share my screen. Let's see if this is going to work. You can see full screen, yeah?
That's all good.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I want to talk to you about today about the CCG Bootcamps, which is essentially a new modality for capacity building. For those of you who know us, you know that CCG has been conducting capacity building for around 4 to 5 years, and then many of our capacity building exercises and practices predate CCG, stemming from the Optimus community. And what we've done essentially is we've progressed and we've had a number of lessons learned, and we've understood what works and what doesn't work. And as a result of that, we've come up with a new modality for capacity building that is more tailored to specific audiences and has a more specific deliverable at the end of it. And today I'll be talking to you about the CCG bootcamps. So to begin with, what is a bootcamp? Bootcamp is a long-term intensive capacity building engagement aimed at producing an output at the end of the engagement. So there's two elements to this, essentially, the long and intensive capacity building part, and then the output towards the end of it. What the bootcamp envisions are the following: participation by a team of colleagues. So it's not an individual participation. Instead, it is a team attendance with a specific end product in mind. So this could be an electrification plan, an energy transition or decarbonization plan. It could be a research paper or something else, but essentially something that is a specific product. And lastly, it envisions a devotion of a coach from CCG to support the capacity building process all the way through to the end product. So essentially, when you think about the bootcamp, the higher level elements of it is that intensive capacity building and a product in the end. And then these three elements as listed on the screen are the main parts of it. How do the bootcamps differ from the regular EMP attendances? So the energy modeling platforms essentially fall under the bootcamps. The bootcamps are much wider than the EMPs, and they utilize the EMPs as part of the engagement. With the bootcamps, there is the difference between the EMPs in that there's a group attendance and not an individual attendance. The number of attendances of EMPs during a bootcamp is 2 or more, right? So essentially, if you're undergoing a bootcamp, you will attend at least 2 of the energy modeling platform events, if not more, depending on the modality of the bootcamp that you're engaging in. The EMPs do not provide a direct coach for yourself, but the bootcamps do. So given the project that you're conducting, given the deliverable that you want to deliver, there will be a coach supporting this. And then, yes, there is a defined product towards the end of the product, towards the end of the bootcamp, as opposed to the EMPs. And lastly, after the EMPs, the current modality is that the person gets accepted into the energy modeling community for keeping support after the EMP has ended. For the bootcamps, excuse me, it's both attendance to the EMC, and then there's the support of the coach that continues to go on, and coach also travels to the bootcamp country if need be. So there are 3 modalities of bootcamps that we will be offering, and the offer will be starting from EMBA, the applications of which will open next Monday on the 16th of December. The first bootcamp is the Scholars Bootcamp. The Scholars Bootcamp is aimed specifically at academics. So these are either alumni, meaning previous participants of EMPs, or they can be new participants, but they must be academics. And the idea is that these academics would like to produce a research paper. So the deliverable for the Scholars Bootcamp is a research paper. The Partners Bootcamp is aimed at international organizations conducting technical assistance programs. So in this instance, the engagement happens with the international organization itself and the team on the ground that they're working with. So we know that a number of IOs do capacity building throughout the Global South and not just the Global South. And essentially an IO who wishes to outsource its capacity building activities to a third entity can do so via CCG. CCG essentially takes the group, trains them, does the capacity building, and helps them in delivering whatever deliverable they need to deliver. Lastly, there is the Data to Deal Bootcamp. This is aimed primarily at what we call in CCG as affiliate countries. For the wider audience, this is essentially countries that are not directly our partner countries, but countries that we work with nevertheless. And the D2D Bootcamp can also have an intervention from an international organization along with the affiliate country. So it could be the instance that CCG and an international organization are working with one country jointly. So there could be essentially like a middleman that's played by the international organization. So the Scholars Bootcamp, what are the defining principles of it? Aimed at academics, group attendance, attendance of participants to 2 EMPs, could be more, but probably 2, supported by a coach upon acceptance. The aim of the bootcamp is for the team to develop a research paper whereby 2 tools from the data to deal analytical workflow are connected. I'll get more onto this in the next slide. And what's offered as well is additionally an in-country event for the paper finalization. It could be an in-country event, it could be an outside country event. This can vary, but there's going to be essentially a event that takes place after the 2 EMPs, whereby the paper is finalized. And the duration of this bootcamp is 6 to 12 months. Now, this is what it looks like chronologically when you're thinking about, okay, so what's going on between those 6 to 12 months? Essentially, suppose a team of academics applies from, let's say, for example, Uganda. What ends up happening is that the team is selected. With the team coach, the research project is defined. Now, in application, this must be stated as well, the research idea, but the proper research project, not necessarily. Timelines are created, deliverables are created, and responsibilities are given. So this is done with the team coach. In month 3, EMP attendance number 1 takes place, whereby suppose that one of the tools that's being connected is MAD. So the training on MAD takes place, and a basic study plan is created and a basic case study. After the EMP attendance in the latter 2 months, the team continues working with the coach and developing their model. Then they come to the second EMP, where they receive training in the second tool, which let's say is, for example, osmosis. And they also create a small model based on the research plan that they've initially decided. After the second EMP, so this is month 8 to 9, the team then connects the 2 tools together, so MAD and osmosis, and does the analysis that needs to be done for whatever research that they were doing in the first place to answer the research question, essentially. And then lastly, towards the end of it, there is an additional event whereby the paper, which has already been more or less written, it's assumed that it's written around month 8 to 9. It's finalized with the support of a coach and submitted for publication, peer-reviewed publication. So just to give you an idea, the D2D analytical workflow, this is what we're talking about right now. The tools vary, so this will be depending on when the application is open, depending on our trainer capacity available, we will indicate which tools a team can apply for. So for example, let's say that path calculator is not available for the moment, we will say that this is not available to be utilized as part of the bootcamp. Instead, it's MAD, onset, osmosis, and let's say MinFit. So essentially, the idea is that somebody would look at the D2D analytical workflow, for which there is a paper, the link of which will be attached to the slides after the meeting. The slides will be shared publicly. And essentially the team decides which tools they want to connect, and then they come to the EMPs, get trained, end up writing a paper on it. This is the Scholars Bootcamp. In applying for a Scholars Bootcamp, the team must demonstrate the following: a research plan, so showing which tools they want to utilize as a part of their research, the added value of their research to academia, specifically with respect to their country context. So if, let's say, there's been already a osmosis analysis done in Tanzania, and it's been a very in-depth analysis that's been done, there is no need necessarily to expand the literature on osmosis unless it's a very niche specific research topic. So this must be highlighted in the application, why your research is of significance, and it's going to be the determining factor of whether a team is selected for the bootcamp or not. We also need to acknowledge the relevance of their research topic to live policy issues in their country. The more practical they are, the more useful they are, the better it is, of course, for the application. And previous research activity that either supports the paper they would like or shows a research gap. Essentially, these are the things that would need to be defined as part of the application on the Scholars Bootcamp. Now over to the Partners Bootcamp. The Partners Bootcamp is aimed at technical assistance programs of IOs, excuse me, whereby the team underdoing the technical assistance attends the bootcamp and has a deliverable that they're working towards. So let's say, for example, that a given international organization is engaging with a country to support their plan. And what they would like to do as a part of it is have capacity building activities conducted for the local teams so that the teams themselves can do the modeling and can carry on the modeling once the analysis has been done. And they also would like some support in actually producing the modeling analysis for the decarbonization plan. This is where you would come to the Partners Bootcamp. It again envisions a group attendance. Number of individuals are decided by the international organization and the local team, and the number of tools as well are decided by the organization and the local team. So we do not necessarily play a part in the decision making of this. There's at least 2 EMP attendances, depending on the number of tools or the scope of work. And there is support by the coach, who overlooks the development and the creation of the overall deliverable. And the coach also travels to the team countries as part of the support package. The duration of the Partners Bootcamp is envisioned to be 6 to 18 months, but it can go on longer if necessary. Again, chronologically, this is what the timeline of the Partners Bootcamps looks like. So similarly, in the first months, project is defined, teams are set, responsibilities are given, and data is being gathered. First EMP attendance, first tool is being learned. After that, analysis are conducted. Second EMP attendance, second tool is learned. After that, again, continuing development of scenarios, finalization of important milestones, so on and so forth. Coach travels to the country to support modeling activities and finalization of deliverable. And then if need be, a third EMP or more attendances are conducted, more coach travels to the local country are conducted. So essentially after month 11, it's down to the project itself. In discussion with the IO and the relevant other partners, we decide what is the best fit and continue based on that. So just to give an idea, what you're looking at right now is the data to deal framework, which is essentially one method that CCG believes in that can work in terms of unlocking climate finance, concessionary climate finance specifically. This again is our approach. It's not necessarily everyone's approach, but to give an idea, CCG supports with this element in such a process. So local team modeling, iterative robust decision-making analysis, undertaking deliverable modeling. So this is what we support along with building the institutional capacity, and then the IO sort of does the other steps of the process. This again is reflected on D2D. It is not necessarily the case that IOs conduct their technical assistance programs following the D2D methodology. So it's just a simple reflection to give some thoughts into where CCG fits as part of the Partners Bootcamp. So the application process is the following. Initial engagement confirmation process, it begins with discussions between CCG and the relevant international organization. So an international organization may approach to us and say, we think that we'd like to conduct a partners bootcamp. And firstly, we have a discussion over it to understand what's the project. Based on the discussions, full package of support is agreed upon. So even though in the presentation is quite clear what the package of support is, some things could vary because of the difference in number of tools, difference of the final deliverable, difference of the length of the engagement, and otherwise. Then once agreed upon, there is simply a formal application process to the bootcamp that partner must make, and this will be disseminated later. This is just for capturing everything on paper so that it's all clear on where the engagement started from. The funding expectations for the Partners Bootcamp are the following. For an IO to engage with the Partners Bootcamp, it is expected that the partner will cover the costs of the EMP attendance of the participants and the coach, and costs of any subsequent country visits by the coach. CCG essentially covers the EMP trainers and coaches' time and provides the covering the time of anything in supporting of the bootcamp finalization. If the number of technical assistance programs supported are numerous, a separate event similar to the EMP may be organized, which would require the partner's financial support. So for example, if the partner is dealing with, let's say, 6 countries in East Africa, and it makes sense that instead of having people go around the world for numerous EMPs, it's better to have one EMP just for the partner itself in a given location. We can discuss the possibility of that, but that would require funding from the partner itself. Now, lastly, the D2D bootcamp. Aimed at supporting affiliate countries. So again, just to restate, these are not CCG partner countries. These are countries which CCG works with, but they're not directly in partnership with. And they can be either supported by an IO or not, right? So it depends basically on how the engagement starts. And essentially what the D2D bootcamp envisions is that the partner willing to engage in this would like to go through the whole process of the D2D methodology. So in the previous slide, as you saw the methodology, you'll see it in the next slide. Essentially, it's starting from the first point, going to the last one. Whether the steps are done in a linear fashion, in parallel or in circles or otherwise, that's something that's decided upon. But essentially, the idea is that the affiliate country is undergoing the D2D pipeline. A group attendance, just like the other bootcamps. Attendance of 2 or more EMPs, depending on number of tools and scope of work once more, supported by coach again, who overlooks the whole project, supports the creation of a deliverable, travels to the country. Additional support by CCG provided based on consultations. So if, for example, in discussion, it's evident that besides the modeling and other things, CCG needs to support some other elements of this engagement that is discussed upon and decided, and then after that, essentially implemented. The duration of the D2D bootcamp is envisioned to be 12 to 24 months. It is a lengthy process. It is not an easy process, but it is a successful process, as previous cases in Latin America specifically display. So that's just something to take into account. Essentially, the D2D bootcamp is this process of starting with securing high-level support, ending up with climate financing strategy. And here you can see what are the exact bits that CCG does and what are the bits that CCG could help with the partner involved. So by partner, we mean either the IO or the affiliate country itself. Essentially, the first step, CCG has nothing to do with this. This is either the country itself or the international organization engaged with it, which is securing high-level support for conducting the D2D process. CCG builds institutional capacity, undertakes deliberative modeling, supports the local modeling team, and is involved in the iterative, robust decision-making analysis. Then all of the other steps involved in conducting a D2D, CCG can support this if need be. So as mentioned in the previous slide, there's more services that CCG can offer. These are the services that we're talking about. So let's say, for example, Slack-running policy and regulatory framework, CCG could potentially support this, but we need to discuss this off the standard package and understand what can be done. But essentially, the D2D bootcamp is about getting from the first point over here to the last point over there. That's the difference in it. It's more the depth and let's say the methodology of engagements that's different within the Partners Bootcamp. The Partners Bootcamp, we do not assume that the partner is following the D2D methodology. They could be following another methodology that works for them. in a D2D bootcamp, it is assumed that the D2D methodology is followed. So the application process and funding, initial engagement confirmation process to begin with discussions between CCG and relevant country. So essentially, there isn't really an application that happens. It's more the case that CCG is approached and said, yes, we would like to conduct a D2D bootcamp. Then we discuss and understand what needs to be done. From there, a support package is decided and a TOR is drafted. The TOR could end up being used in one way or another, but the purpose of the TOR is directly just to put things on paper as to this is what CCG will do, this is what it will not do as part of the Data to Do bootcamp. And similarly to the Partners Bootcamp, CCG covers cost of EMP trainers and coaches, and then the partner covers cost of participants of EMP and subsequent visits of the coach to the country. Any other additional elements also here will be expected to be covered by the engagement partner or the IO. So now just to put the three bootcamps in one table and show you what's the direct difference between all of them. Essentially, Scholars Bootcamp aimed at alumni and new participants from academia, Partners Bootcamp at international organizations conducting technical assistance programs, D2D Bootcamp affiliate countries. The support package for the Scholars Bootcamp is 2 or more EMPs, coach, and an additional event. For Partners Bootcamp, 2 or more EMPs, coach, support and deliverable completion, other elements as requested. Data to Deal Bootcamp, 2 or more EMPs, coach, and other elements as requested. In fact, this would be the biggest box if we include all the elements requested. But again, since these are just based directly on discussion, it's better to just leave them like that. And then engagement-wise as well, essentially, it's more or less just like going from shorter to longer, starting with the Scholars Bootcamp being 6 to 12, Partners 6 to 18, and then D2D 12 to 24. The funding, Scholars Bootcamp fully funded by CCG. So once the group is admitted, we fund their travel to the EMPs. We fund the travel of the coach to the country. Everything is covered for by CCG. For the Partners Bootcamp, partner and CCG. D2D Bootcamp, same story, partners and CCG. Application for the Scholars Bootcamp, you need to apply via the application link, which will be available again on next Monday, at least starting from EMPA. Partners Bootcamp, discussions, and an application link, and then the Data to Deal Bootcamp, purely discussion. I believe this brings me to the end of my presentation. So what I'm going to do is I think I might just leave this slide over here for purposes of, just reflecting the information that's been said in the call. And maybe we could open up to questions. I will need the support of my colleagues in this as I'm not seeing much on my screen right now.
Yeah, no worries. I can read the questions out, but just for everyone else, if there's only one question currently, so if people want to put your questions in, please use the Q&A, or if you would like to speak, just raise your hand and I can unmute you and let you speak to Rudolf or Vivian. Is there anything you'd like to add first, Vivian, before I go into the first question?
No, that's fine. Let's go into the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. So yeah, one question from David Sturgis is, are there any rules around country of origin of the academics within a group in the EMPA, i.e. an international group of academics focusing on a single country?
So with the country origin of the countries, there is only one rule that should be followed. CCG is allowed to fund all the eligible countries, which include low and low middle income countries. Upper and higher upper the other two higher upper middle income countries, basically, those are the ones that we cannot fund. So essentially, there's no other rule otherwise. So what I mean with this is that majority of the countries from Africa can be supported, majority of the countries from Southeast Asia can be supported, and some countries from Latin America can be supported. We use the standard OECD labeling of ODA and non-ODA countries, and I'll be happy to share the link afterwards as well, just to show what's with that. But otherwise, there's no other rules. It can be any engagement, and it can be whoever, basically, as long as country of origin is low middle income.
Great. Thanks, Rudolf. Somebody asked if the presentation will be shared, just to let everyone know that this recording will go on YouTube afterwards, and then the presentation will also be there'll be a link to the presentation along with the recording, and we can distribute it as well, so you have access to it. So hopefully that clears that one up. There is another question from Fernando. Is there any documentation to be signed before the beginning of the boot camp to guarantee the delivery of the deliverables? And what happens if we go through the development of the boot camp and the deliverable is not completed or the quality is not good enough?
Okay. So documents signed, it depends on the modality of the bootcamp. For the Scholars Bootcamp, no, not yet. There could be something that's developed, but for the moment, we're not thinking about this. For the Partners Bootcamp, we're assuming something will be signed in one way or another with the partner, although that is not a must as well. For the D2D Bootcamp, yes, something will be signed for sure. And in terms of guaranteeing the quality or the delivery of the bootcamp, those are mechanisms that will be discussed with the teams upon selection, saying, we've selected you to undergo the Scholars Bootcamp, just so you know, there's XYZ elements that you must ensure, and that's basically left on the offline side of things. Vivian, do you want to comment on this as well at any point?
Well, just to add, of course, that the selection for the boot camps is competitive, and therefore we'll be looking carefully at the quality of the research proposals, and we'll be looking for indications that the proposal is credible and completable and well thought through. So there will be quality assurance at entry, but also the role of the coach going through the process is to ensure that there is a good deliverable at the end.
And just to add to what Vivian was saying, so the Scholars Bootcamp, it could very well be the case that, for example, for EMPA, we receive a number of applications, but if we do not deem any of the applications as sufficient enough or, good enough, it could be the case that none are selected, right? So the Scholars Bootcamp is going to be very competitive, and a lot of dedication is expected for it. So yeah, just to, point that out.
Thank you both. There's a follow-up question from David, is that, so if there is a group involving participants across both classifications of country, is there information available on the cost to self-fund participants from UMIC or HIC?
Okay. So for self-funding participants, we could use an indicative cost that's worked for us basically in our previous attendances that we use, and participation to an event amounts to more or less around, between 2,200 and 2,500 pounds per event. That is at least the number that we've usually come to, regardless actually of the location of the event. In terms of let's say, if it's a self-funded process of a team coming to do the complete Scholars Bootcamp, if there's any other elements that need to be involved in this would need to be discussed offline. But one could basically use the cost of 2 EMP attendances, which sums up for an individual to around £5,000. And then for the element of the coach, that's something, again, to be discussed offline. And that's very location specific as well, especially the coach one. So, yeah, Vivian, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, just to mention that obviously each case needs to be considered individually, but in addition to the question of who covers the costs for countries outside of the target group, I think there's also the question of, not taking up too many places that could be allocated in the course to countries from the target group. So we need to be quite cautious on that in that regard.
Great, thank you both. Next question. When will the boot camps commence, and how do we access the sign-up links once they do?
Yeah. So the boot camps, the application links will be available as of Monday, the 16th of December. What's going to happen is it's not going to be the standard application link as it was for the EMPs. As part of the EMP application link, when you click on it, there's going to be options of regular EMP attendance, Scholars Bootcamp, and Partners Bootcamp. And you essentially apply through that. The Scholars Bootcamp applications and the Partners Bootcamps applications will be reviewed a lot earlier, but without a set date, because there's discussion elements that might be involved in both of them. And essentially, the team applies. The questions are slightly different depending on the sort of bootcamp that you're applying for. And the assuming that a team gets selected, let's say a team is selected to undertake the Scholars Bootcamp, then the first event they'll be expected to attend will be the EMPA. Having said this, if, for example, the team can still apply through the EMPA link for the case of starting the first event at the EMPG, right? So it's not the case that if you apply through the EMPA link, you must go to the EMPA as your first event. That's not necessarily the case. It's more that we're just using the same application method for the sake of simplicity. Yeah. And assuming that, let's say, a team comes to EMPA engagement, EMPA is due to take place at the end of April. Engagement will probably begin around mid-February. So that's yeah, something to bear in mind.
Another question. How are these applications compatible with the applicants of the EMP LAC? So I think what is meant with that is, if you're doing that, can you apply to a bootcamp in the future?
Yes, you can apply to a bootcamp in the future, and in the case of so with EMP LAC, if you've been admitted to EMP LAC now and you will be taking part in EMP LAC, the bootcamp is not going to be just from that point onwards. Essentially, you'd need to apply to a bootcamp again using the bootcamp application link of EMPA. And in the future for EMP LAC countries, it's just a word of warning that the bootcamp attendance will look slightly different, and it is going to be subject to co-funding that we receive because of ODA and non-ODA differences. We're hoping that the Catalyst facility, which is something that we've set up as to support the bootcamps in terms of funding, will be functioning quite well by the midsummer. So hoping that at that point we will be able to support more LAC countries on the bootcamp applications. But essentially, if right now you've applied to EMP LAC, you're coming and you want to do a bootcamp, you will still need to apply for a bootcamp.
Great. Thank you. Another question is, can you take part in different types of bootcamp, or can you only be part of one? I guess that's not very easy to answer right now until, but.
Well, definitely not simultaneously. That's for sure. But I think that, that there'll be, in principle, you could, but not simultaneously. But I think also we need to keep an eye on just, the number of beneficiaries and being equitable in terms of giving out opportunities. So, there might be occasions when people may be repeat beneficiaries, but we can't sort of constantly be training the same people. We need to reach a wider audience. So that's what I would say in answer to that.
Yeah, completely agree with Vivian. It's simultaneously not possible, and then in general, we just must consider the number of people and the number of beneficiaries involved in general. Yeah.
Great, thanks both. There isn't any more questions in the group chat or the question and answer currently, but if anyone does have any more questions, we do have plenty of time. But oh, okay, one's just come through. Which countries are affiliate countries, and how does one push for the inclusion of his country that isn't one of these affiliate countries?
So maybe I can take that. So affiliate countries are usually countries where the government has approached CCG for support, usually through FCDO posts, so our local diplomatic presence on the ground. Sometimes affiliate countries can be countries that are working with other international organizations that wish to partner with CCG on this topic. But typically there's some kind of official request that comes through in order for us to consider a country as an affiliate country. Hope that answers the question.
I should clear up. Thank you, Vivian. So yeah, if anyone does have any more questions, then please feel free. We do have plenty of time. If not, if Rudolf or Vivian, if you have anything else to add, for now, feel free to go ahead. Maybe we can give it sort of a couple of minutes more to see if there's any more questions, but if not, then we can sort of look at closing the meeting.
So maybe just a comment to people who are considering putting together applications for the bootcamp is clearly these two components. One is to have a good team, and ideally that's a team that can work together, either across government or across universities, but and that can maybe bring different skills to the table, and thereby make a more kind of robust proposal. It's also the idea of the deliverable is really critical. So I think for academics, it's maybe more obvious. An academic article is a clear deliverable. But for those applying from government and policymaking institutions, it's about thinking about whether you've got a particular policy deliverable that's coming up in the next year. Where your country really wants to take agency and produce this yourself rather than relying on external consultants. Can your government commit the time of people in policymaking institutions to really go through this very intense experience, but with the potential outcome of really having something that's owned and produced locally. So those are some of the key things that you'll need to consider if you'd like to put together an application.
Just to add on top of what Vivian said, especially for the Scholars Bootcamp, it must be, so the time devotion to this is going to be quite high in general, besides the EMPs as well, right? So it is the case that you will be creating a full-on model that works, does good robust analysis, has decent data in it, and on the basis of which the paper you write can go through a peer-reviewed published journal. So one must just bear in mind that the Scholars Bootcamp, since it's directly coming from academics and in light of teaching activities and otherwise, is quite a big commitment. So that's just something to bear in mind when applying. For Partners Bootcamp and the Data to Deal Bootcamp, since these are more focused on the engagement itself and they're not necessarily, let's say, side hustles or side jobs, as you want to say them, then I guess in that instance, time devotion should not be as major of a problem. That's just the main thing that I'd like to comment. And I'd just like to say that I think these bootcamps are going to be becoming more and more our standard models of operandi, even though we will have regular EMP attendance at all of our EMPs, whereby you can come for just one event, learn the tool you wish to learn, and then go practice it in your workplace or in whatever you're doing. But we do envision that the boot camps, so sort of the more long-term engagement devoted to a deliverable, is going to evolve into becoming our more standard practice in the future. How quickly would that happen or how near that is, I will not be able to say, but we shall see.
Great, thank you both. People have asked if you could share the slides with them now. Is that possible? I don't know. The people that have joined have asked for them now, because I know that we will upload them to the YouTube video. But if you can put them in the chat, I think that would be helpful for some people. If not, that's fine. We can just put them on the YouTube video. But
let me try. I didn't know it's possible to share slides on
it
Zoom.
might. I'm not sure if it is on Zoom, but you can attach like documents from your computer, I think. So
Let me.
While you're doing that, I just thought I would just add, for people that are here and that have potentially engaged in osmosis or clues this year, or just more generally you're interested in it or you'd like to engage, then there are what we're calling the town hall meetings this week, which are taking place on Wednesday and Thursday. So this was, if you are part of our alumni, and if you are osmosis or clues, you will have had an email giving you the details of sign up. But if you are not necessarily part of one of those groups, if you just go to my LinkedIn or CCG's LinkedIn, you will be able to see okay, thank you, Rudolf. I can see those, so I think everyone should have those now. If you go to CCG's LinkedIn or my LinkedIn, which is just Kane Alexander, you should be able to find the relevant information and links to sign up to the town hall meetings, which are currently set up as 2-hour meetings or sessions, one on Wednesday for osmosis and one on Thursday for clues. They may not take 2 hours, but it's just a good opportunity for us to speak to the people such as yourselves who have taken part in these kinds of events. For example, this webinar is an EMC event, and it would be good to get your feedback. So the town hall meetings are obviously designed mostly to discuss osmosis or clues, but more broadly, if you just want to join join and take part and have a discussion on what you think is good, what we've done well, and what you think we could do better, then yeah, everyone is invited here, and it would be great to see some of your faces there if you are available. So check it out on the LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, you can just message me on there or email me. But I think from my end, it sounds all good for us to close it there. It sounds like it's really good to hear more about the boot camps, and I think that you, Vivian and Rudolf, you both provided plenty of information there for everyone to understand the different modalities. And Rudolf's just shared his email in the group chat, so if anyone has any more specific questions, you can ask Rudolf. And thanks for the presentation as well; it was really good. So if either of you have anything to say while we close, please go ahead, and then we can end the meeting.
Vivian, any closing remarks from yourself?
No, I'd just like to thank Rudolf and Kane for putting this together, and everyone for joining, and hoping that you may be sort of tempted to apply. We look forward to receiving your applications, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you, Ken, for organizing this. Yes, from my end as well. So I'm very excited for these bootcamps. I think that they're going to be something that will work very well, and we will see a lot of good deliverables coming out of them. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm always reachable by email. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me there, and then feel free to send me messages there as well. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day and good rest of your week. See you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.